I think one of the biggest detriments to people's songwriting tends to be their perfectionism paired with their fear. We all have some level of fear that our next song won't be good enough, or we're not quite cut out for it, or we deal with imposter syndrome. But one of the key parts of being prolific with writing is really just being able to embrace the suck. Be okay with writing badly, understanding it's a part of the process, and being comfortable with not being the best, not being even close to the best, and at first, frankly, just not being very good. Because everybody starts not very good, and the only way to get better than not very good is to just embrace the fact that you're not very good right now and keep working on it anyway. So let's talk about 3 major reasons why you should be okay with writing bad songs. The first reason why you should be okay with writing bad songs is really very simple, and it's that bad exercise or unideal exercise is still better than no exercise. And this is true whether we are exercising with our songwriting skills or whether it's actual exercise. So think of it like this. If it's a Friday night and you're really feeling very tired and you don't feel like doing your workout for the day, you've worked out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and work is just killing you right now, and that Netflix show you're binging is calling your name. It's a Friday night. Why do you have to work out? You could just say, I don't really feel like doing it, and I'm not going to do it at all, and it's just not even going to go very well today. I only halfway do it. So I'm just gonna not do it at all. But alternatively, you could at least make yourself do that half-hearted effort to at least do something. You could at least crank out 25 push-ups, do some sit-ups, do some wall sits, and at least that will do something. In the same way, if maybe you don't exercise at all, but you committed yourself to just walking 1 mile a day, you may say, that's really nothing in the scheme of things, but that adds up over time, and soon walking a mile is easy for you, if maybe right now it isn't, which I assume it is. But the idea here is when it comes to songwriting as well, it's better for you to get 10, 20 minutes in or an hour in where you don't write anything that's actually of good quality than it is to not write at all, because you're still exercising your skill at songwriting. Just because your skill level might be very low right now doesn't mean that you aren't still improving that skill. You're not just going to wake up and be a good songwriter. You have to embrace the fact that in order to get to even an average songwriter or an okay songwriter, at first you're just going to have to work through growing pains. The second reason that you should be okay with writing badly is really very connected to the first reason, and that's that every bad song you write is one more bad song that you've gotten over with. You've just finished it, you've moved on, and now you're one step closer to your first good song, or you're one step closer to the point where half of your songs are good rather than, say, 1 in every 10 songs are good. And if you're into sports, or especially football, you can sort of think of it like this. It's the idea that, you know, if you're a rookie quarterback who's starting and you're the first overall draft pick, it's sort of this understanding you're probably going to be good, but you kind of just have to get through that first rookie season where you're probably going to suck. You're going to throw a ton of interceptions. It's not going to look pretty, but that's how you learn. You only learn by actually playing the game. In the same way, we only learn songwriting by actually writing songs. So let's just get the suck, crap, awful songwriting over with. That way we can get to the point where we're actually writing good songs. So instead, celebrate the fact that you wrote a crappy song, because it's one more crappy song that you can throw away, never listen to again, never worry about again, and you're one step closer to writing that first good song. And the third reason that you should be okay with writing badly, and probably my favorite reason and the most important reason, is that bad writing can be turned into good writing later. Now this is really important, because this sort of connects to what I talk about in my 6-step lyric writing checklist, which is this idea of don't, especially for lyrics, try to go from here's a blank page and I only vaguely know what I'm going to write about, all the way to let me try to write lyrics. You're skipping so many steps in there, and you're expecting too much from yourself. Instead, you should do one piece at a time. In the first round of lyrics you write for a song, you shouldn't even really be trying to make them good per se. You shouldn't be worried about that, because you're going to edit and edit and edit until you turn a relatively bad lyric eventually into a really good, meaningful lyric. Any type of writing this is true of. For writing a book, for example, writers will just crank out that first draft because they know they just got to get it over with, and then they can edit from there and make it into a good book. There's a whole month for that for authors. I think it's November, the NaNoWriMo or whatever it's called, where the whole premise of the thing is just crank out a book in 1 month. We know it's hard. Embrace the fact that it's going to be terrible. Don't try to make it good. But then from there, what you can do is you can actually edit the book into being good. Writing is always going to suck at first. Just embrace that. Get that part over with, and then spend all your time in the editing phase, because editing is writing. At the end of the day, how good a written work is almost completely based on the editing process, not the writing process. Embrace the fact that your first draft is going to suck. Embrace the fact that your first songs are probably going to suck. And even those first crappy songs are songs that maybe later you can revisit and actually tweak and edit into better songs. So at the end of the day, if you're thinking to yourself, I suck at songwriting, or I'm afraid to start songwriting because I just don't think I'm going to be any good, or I started to write a song, but frankly it's embarrassing, I wouldn't want to show anybody, so I certainly don't want to start actually songwriting or telling anybody that I'm songwriting because then they're going to want to listen to my music and then they're going to judge me because it's bad. Forget all of that. Embrace the fact that your first songs are going to suck. Embrace the fact that your first drafts are going to suck. Even when you're a more experienced songwriter, you should still have first drafts that probably suck. They might suck a little less, but they're a first draft, right? They're the first lyrics that you wrote for a song. Of course they're not very good. Nobody just thinks in perfect poetry. So don't have those high expectations for yourself. Of course you can do this. You can write great songs. Really, the only difference between people who are gonna go on to do great stuff with songwriting and people who aren't is really just patience in the editing process, patience with getting through sucking at first, and being willing to still work at something even though they aren't good at it right away, because nobody's gonna be good at it right away. That's okay. And hey, if you're worried about people judging you, first of all, you don't have to let anybody hear your songs until your songs are starting to be good. But also, just don't let people get in your way. If they're going to be negative, right? Don't even entertain the criticisms of people who are too busy sitting on their butts watching Netflix, have never created anything themselves in their lives, and yet they're gonna cast stones at you for trying to do something really cool, like write a song. Don't worry about those people. So anyway, I digress. The main idea here is don't be afraid to suck at songwriting, especially at first. It's all a part of the process. And yeah, sure, it may take you 500 hours of songwriting before you get good, or it might take only 30 hours of songwriting before you get your first good song or start becoming pretty good at what you're doing. It doesn't really matter how long it's going to take you, as long as you're willing to commit to the process, and you will find yourself making steady progress. And the other reality is that usually when you actually get into it, you get more amped up by the fact that, hey, this is my new best song, or hey, the songs I wrote this year are better than the songs I wrote last year. And you end up sort of finding yourself not caring as much about comparing yourself to others and all that, because it ends up being a healthier, more fun thing for yourself, that you just sort of take pride in the fact that you're getting better at your craft. I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, be sure to check out my free guide on 10 different ways to start writing a song. Especially if you're new to songwriting, this will be helpful to you because it will give you not one, but 10 different ways to start your songs. You could write a whole album's worth just off of going by each one of these methods. There are 5 methods that start from a lyrical standpoint and 5 methods that start from a musical standpoint, because I think there's value in both starting with lyrics when you're songwriting and starting with music when songwriting. So try them both. If you have preferred one over the other in the past, try doing the other one. You might actually end up having better results. For the longest time, I was always lyrics first. Then I transitioned to music first, and I found that actually does tend to work better for me. But it depends on who you are, right? One may be better than the other for you. Regardless, you should try them both, and you should always be trying to find different ways to start writing a song, to stay inspired, to change it up, because if you always start your songs with a guitar chord progression, eventually you're going to start to sound the same, or you're going to end up getting bored of it, or you're going to just grab your guitar and be like, I feel like I've done every chord progression on the planet. I don't know what else to do. So instead, try something different, right? Start by writing a bass line first, or start with a piano riff, or start with a bit of poetry, or start with an interesting cymbal idea. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check that out. Link in the description, songwritertheory.com/ free guide. I also have another free guide that I mentioned in this video. That's the 6-step lyric writing checklist. I'll throw the link in the description for that as well. It's at songwritertheory.com/lyric checklist, but that walks you all the way from the first part of the songwriting, or at least lyric writing process, where you're just sort of accumulating different ideas for songs, all the way to a finished product, a finished song with lyrics that you can be proud of, that passes what I like to call the frame test, which is the idea that your lyrics should be so good that they don't need the music to be like a good piece of poetry up on the wall. A lot of songs, right, wouldn't pass that test. If you put the lyrics to the song on the wall, people would read it and be like, oh, what is that? That's terrible poetry. But the music kind of just covers up the fact that the lyrics aren't really very good. I'm looking at you, most pop songs. But we don't want that. We want our lyrics to be something we can be proud of, that really would hold their own, even if they didn't have any music at all, even if they were just poetry with no music whatsoever. And that's at least the standard that I try to keep my lyrics to. You should do that as well. But if you're interested in anything even close to that, just in being able to have a process where you can do small steps to get from an idea all the way to a lyric that you can be proud of, be sure to check that out. It's at songwritertheory.com/lyric checklist again. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll talk to you in the next one.